Way Beyond Fitness crew. It is Shayna Hogue, your pain-free coach, helping busy professionals dealing with limiting joint pain get back to playing as hard as they work. And I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about tensegrity in the body. Now, I know a lot of people that follow me or watch or work with me specifically are dealing with some form of joint pain. And they've been to PT, they've been to massage, maybe they've combined multiple integration tools to try and reduce the limiting joint pain that they're suffering from, but they're still dealing with pain and they're tired of it and it's limiting their life and they can't get out and they can't play like they used to, and they're finding they're working all the time, and even when they're working, it's leading to a whole bunch of symptoms at work like low energy, brain fog, stuff like that, and that shit's affecting their quality of life and they're ready for something different. So one of the things I wanted to share with you today was one of the things that I do and how I approach working with individuals like that. It might be a little different than what you're used to. A lot of times if I have a knee specific injury, I'm gonna go to the doctor's gonna diagnose me with a specific thing, and I'm gonna go to PT and I'm gonna start to work on that. But what we don't take into consideration when we have injuries like that, what we have done is we've compromised the integrity of the entire body. And that's, I think, the key part that's missing, because many times we don't take that whole global approach to the body when we go into healing the structure. Instead, we're doing a really local and focused approach to that injury, and that's what's missing for you, and that's where I come into play, and that's where I really love to work. So it's not your fault, it's not the PT's fault, it's not the doctors. They're doing what they're supposed to do and they've been educated to do, and they do a phenomenal job with it. It's just time that we opened up a little bit more and look at the body as a whole system. All right, so I want to give you an example of what I mean by how you can influence tensegrity in the body or the integrity of the body. Now, raise your hand if you're someone that feels like you have significant hamstring tightness. A lot of people that come in, and one of the evaluations that I do is I have people bend over and touch their toes and kind of see what that range of motion is for them. And a lot of times, especially men, they're like, my hamstrings are so tight, I'm so limited in what I can do with my hamstrings, and I just feel like they're gonna snap half the time, especially if you have them bend over and touch their toes. And you'll see things like knees will bend in order for them to get to the floor, things like that will start to happen to allow for range of motion. And what is pretty fascinating to help people understand that you can influence range of motion, especially that hip hinge, without even touching the hamstrings. It's going to show you it's going to show you a really nice simple way in which I'm about kind of reflecting on what I'm talking about as far as influencing the integrity of the body. So you have down here in your low back some really dense fascial tissue, and it's called your thoracolumbar column, okay? And it's this kind of triangular shaped fascial tissue, and it's really dense. And you can use either a roller, foam roller, and this is my vibrational foam roller that I like to use because it takes the work and that you can do with a foam roller and cuts down your time by a significant amount. So if you're in a rush or don't have a lot of time to work out, this is a great tool to have. I'm going to show you how to do both of them, this exercise, using both of these pieces. So this one, of course, all you need to do is turn it on level 1. It's going to start vibrating. You're going to place it on the ground. And then you're going to placing this directly on top of your high hips here. So I am just higher below my belt line here, and I'm just going to roll up and down and let my body weight drop down on this. And you do the same thing with the foam roller that I'm doing on this. But I'm going to have you roll up and down about 4 times. And then after you do that, you're going to start to glide your hips side to side. So I'm just doing a weight shift, but I am allowing my body weight to stay in connection with this roller. So if I use my skin as an example, I'm just gripping and running that side to side as I'm working up into the higher hips, into the lower lumbar area. And then I'm going to move a step up, and I'm going to do the same thing that I did before, where I'm just maneuvering up and down 4 times or so. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start to glide side to side, gripping that skin. And when you're doing that, you're sending stress response into that tissue. And that tissue, the way it's designed, is it's going to respond to what you're asking it to do. And it's going to bring in a whole bunch of really nice, rich, nutrient-dense liquid. And you're going to get rid of a lot of waste products. And you're going to find that this tissue is going to have a new experience. Your body's going to have a new integrity to it, and you're going to have new range of motion. And once again, as you noticed, we did not touch your hamstrings at all. After you finish doing that, clear up to about the base of your rib cage. So I started high hips and went up to the base of my rib cage, doing 4 or 5 of the rolls and then 4 or 5 of the smears. And then you're going to come back over, and I want you to try and touch your toes and see if you recognize a significant difference in your ability to touch the floor, touch your toes. And once again, I didn't even touch the hamstrings. And that's that whole concept that we've got to look globally versus just locally, okay, to get a big impact in the health and quality of our tissue and our movement, and to get the pain to go away for the long run. Thanks for watching the video today. I hope you learned something about integrity in the body and how we actually have to look at a bigger global picture when it comes to healing your joint pain versus just focusing locally on that specific joint. And that can be a huge key to you actually getting rid of the pain for good. And there's a lot of components that can play into it, and more of these videos, we're going to talk a lot about that, so stay tuned. But as